All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? How's everybody doing today? This is Ceremonial Witchcraft you are listening to. My name is Corey LeBlanc. I am the host of this fucking thing I created. It is a podcast through Spreaker, which I talk about spirituality and how to use your fucking mind the right way to get shit done, basically. I could always call this occult shit with no bullshit occult shit. That was another, I actually might use that. If I ever start using my magic on a budget channel, then I might and then need another channel that's going to be my next name. But, you know, I threw it out there, and if anybody wants to create their own and use no bullshit occult shit, then by all means, I'll be fucking pretty happy to see it somewhere and be like, hey, someone, that's one of my listeners. Because, you know, I just looked at it today, and I have new demographics available. And I mean, I'm not big time by any stretch of the imagination. But like I said, I'm thankful for every one of you fuckers out there listening to me. And this week alone, well, whatever shows up, there's like 3 bar graphs that show up at 17th. I think there's like 2 or 3 days in between every one of them. So these probably aren't daily, but there's probably like 3 days worth in every one of these bars on this bar graph. And, you know, it's showing me my monetization, how many downloads, and, you know, I hit the 300 mark downloads in one day, I think yesterday, maybe, or the day before, I don't really know. But anyways, and all that day, 300 downloads were from 192 different people, almost 200 different listeners is what it said. So, because, you know, I always assume that maybe I have like 100 and some fucking, I have over 100 fucking things on here, right? Episodes. So, one listener could literally download all of them, and that can make up, you know, 1/3 of that 300. So technically, I can get that from 3 users. Let's say someone really likes what I have to say and just downloads everything, you know, to binge watch, listen to me, then, you know, that's cool. Whatever. I'd be super stoked about that as well. Like, that's not something I'm saying would be shitty. And that's happened before because I've looked back and I've kind of seen that, and that's fucking awesome. It doesn't show me who it is, so anybody out there, I don't know who you are, and it doesn't matter. I fucking think that's fucking cool. I do that with all the people I like. I watch their shit multiple fucking times, and I still watch my stuff that started me off on this path multiple times. Even the new age crap that I don't even think is good for me, technically, I watch over and over again. And that's just because, you know, I want to give them a hit, and, you know, you learn stuff from this, whether it's what not to do, what not to say, what is an issue, or if it's something that I never thought of and I can put a correspondence or twist on it to help people understand it better, you know, and then it is what it is. Yeah, I think that's pretty sick. 192 people listened to me very recently. And, you know, the rest of those other bars, I mean, that's probably not in that one day, but, you know, in 3 days out of the 300 downloads, that's from 192 different people. So, you know, a few of those people obviously downloaded a lot of the episodes. And, you know, it still could be one person downloaded 100, and the other 191 did the rest of that 300. And that's still super cool. But, yeah, I just want to say how grateful I am for all that. It really boosts my confidence and makes me want to keep making shit. Technically, I wasn't going to make one today, and you're not going to know if I release this today or next week or not at all at this point, because I'm just recording it. I really got to try to make sure I'm in the right mindset when I do this and try to pretend I'm live at the moment so it sounds good to you. But in the end, I don't want to be deceptive either. I just want to be real. I want to be honest. I want to tell you what my opinion is. Now, if anybody listens to my birth chart, and they can see and hear that I have multiple spots where it says I'm intuitive. I think there's 2 spots to talk about me being sensitive, which would be more the empath type, and lots of different ways of being psychic and being able to perceive the spiritual realm and shit like that. And then when you go into the transit at the end, that's something I didn't want to play, but I played it anyways because, like I said, I want to be real. But there was many spots where it said I might have mental instabilities or mental issues and shit like that. And, you know, once again, not going to lie, that shit was true at a certain time. And when I was hooked on opiates and before that cocaine and shit like that, I was definitely mentally unstable. And I think now I have more clarity than ever, but I'm not without days where that clarity is a little skewed, a little fucked up. But when it comes to this, I really think I do have a way to perceive it in a way that's demystifying a little bit of this shit, but in the same sense, keeping the magic in it, because anything that we don't understand is technically magic, but once we understand it, it's no longer magic. So the reason Frater Xavier in his first episode or second episode talks about, well, what is magic? Well, he says everything is magic, therefore it cancels itself out, so nothing's magic, or magic's not even the right term. He doesn't even like the word magic. It comes with a weird stereotype, either the geek Harry Potter stereotype or the black satanic stereotype, you know, and it's neither one of those fucking things. Those are two extremes of something that's not even part of this. Once again, it's not illusionism, it's not fake movie crap where you wave a wand around and push people in the air, although that would be fucking cool. I'm sure most people would like to do that, but thank God we can't, because, you know, if people could fucking do that, then I'd be pushing all the guards out of the way to go rob the bank. You know what I mean? And I've fucked with my dark side, and I know what I'm capable of, but, you know, that's without having that power. You give me that power, and then I got to re-explore my dark side, because then I'm dealing with a whole new group of ideas, because right now I don't have the potential to rob a bank and get away with it, so therefore I won't try it. And even though I know it's not right, but it is what it is. And you give me the ability to be able to get away with that with a magic wand that can make me do whatever I want, like I'm Green Lantern, and just whatever I think of happens, which is kind of like magic, by the way. But that being said, that's a whole new ball game. And right now, I would probably go rob that fucking bank. I wouldn't hurt a soul. I'd be like the animal that, you know, eats the other animal and doesn't toy with it, doesn't torture it, it just kills it and eats it for its survival. Well, I would go there and do what needs to be done for my survival without hurting anybody. I would take the money and not hurt a damn soul and just make sure their insurance covered it and, you know, nothing bad happened. That would be my goal, my aim. That's how I would play this out. That being said, who knows what would happen in the moment? Someone tries to fire on me, I get fucking pissed off, who knows? Point is, it's always good to check out your dark night of the soul, and it's always good to put yourself in positions like that. Now that I know that if I could get away with robbing a bank that I would do it, then I need to work on that, because it's not necessarily right. Why would I need to rob the bank? Okay, well, if I need to rob a bank, what do I need to do in this life to make sure that I don't need to rob a bank anymore? Therefore, I need to manifest some fucking money then. Or, more importantly, a means of having continuous money coming into my life. I get that shit under control, then yeah, there's no more need to rob that bank anymore. Why the fuck do I need to rob the bank? I want the bank to be stable. I want it to hold my funds. So, that's not what I want to talk about. I don't even know what I want to talk about. I just wanted to come on here and say thank you and a shout out to everybody who downloads my shit, and I think it's fucking amazing. I've been getting inspiration from multiple different places lately. One being the alien thing, when I was perceiving my buddy's energy when he got in trouble and all that. And take that for what it is. Was it because I was around him every day giving him rides for the last couple of weeks? Is it because he was feeling some very strong emotion and fear when he was in jail, and I was somehow tapping into it? I don't know, but that started me on the whole alien thing. From there, I've been re-looking at Sumeria, Mesopotamia, and the creation story that predates the Genesis story, if you believe such stories. I'm not going to come out here and say the Mesopotamian story is real and, you know, predates Genesis. It predates Genesis in a literary, fictional kind of way. Is that really how the planets were born? Well, I don't know, because that creation story doesn't explain the creation of, would be the sun and where the asteroid belt is, which is Tiamat and, I want to say Anu, but no, Anu is Anus for Uranus, so I'm pretty sure Anu is Uranus. But anyways, the sun and the Tiamat, which is the asteroid belt, well, those are the two beginning planets. They're both watery planets, but one is salt water, one is fresh water. Salt water is Tiamat, fresh water is the sun. Don't ask me where that logic comes from, because, you know, different places say different things. So this is just one version of that I heard more times than the sun being air in that version. But I did hear that. But to me, if the salt water and fresh water makes a little more sense, and not just because I watch Monster High and I know there's saltwater fish monsters and the freshwater fish monsters fight, but because, and you know, Peterson says this, and a few other people say it when they talk about Mesopotamian mythology, that they perceive the world as a round disc. On the edges of it, which is where the ocean is, with salt water, and when you go deep under the ground below you, you get to fresh water that you can drink, right? And so fresh water and salt water, those are the two gods that make up your realm, right? Obviously, there's more than that, but that's the beginning. So in the beginning, there was those two. We don't know how those two were created, but those are the first two. Now, they created other gods together, having babies, so to speak, because they are male and female, even though it's water and water, which would be both negative, but kind of like, probably like, it's not, I'm not saying it's Jupiter and Earth, but something to that effect is Jupiter is a male sign, but he has a lot more representations to water than he does to fire or air. So, that's besides the point. But Jupiter was one of their babies, different name, Kishar, something to that effect, and Saturn was a different name, and they even had Uranus and Neptune in there, and Pluto was one of the moons from Saturn, and Mercury was one of the ones in the beginning as well. I don't know if he was created or not, but he was one of the sun's henchmen, guys that, take care of shit for him, basically, and he ended up getting bound to stay there to not be able to move around the solar system. But anyways, and then Marduk was this other one that's no longer in our solar system, so you can say maybe that's Planet X, Nibiru, Sirius. They tend to say this planet was going in a orbital fashion. It was going circles counterclockwise, but I think it's more like what Santos Bonacci talks about, how Sirius is the dog star, which is another sun bigger than our sun, and it's its binary. It's its better half, or worse half, however you want to look at it. Our sun's male, that's female. That's how they perceive it today, and it's got an elliptical orbit. If you perceive our orbit as left to right or right to left, whichever way it is, I don't know. I want to say it's right to left, because what do you write, left to right? That's clockwise. Yeah, it's clockwise. Counterclockwise is the way the world spins, or we spin around the solar system, and that's why the precession of the equinoxes, we go through the signs the opposite way than we do through our months. Our months goes from Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, where Cancer, Gemini, Taurus was right before Moses, which was Aries, which was right before Jesus, which was Pisces, which is right before now Aquarius. So we're fucking going backwards, basically. After Aquarius, it's what, Capricorn, I believe. I could be wrong, but I believe it's Capricorn. So anyways, that's just a little food for thought, but that's what I've been listening to now. And Marduk, whenever the Tiamat and the name for the sun, I can't remember, had babies, little gods, they were being loud, pissing them off, and the sun says, okay, well, we gotta get rid of them, they're too much, flood story or whatever, just drown them out, get rid of them. And they found out about that, and I think it's Uranus or Neptune, one of them put fucking the sun under a spell, put it in its sleep, and in its sleep it killed it, so to speak. And sometimes they say the mom said it to one of the other kids, and the kid told the other kids, and then they did it. Whatever the case is, they knew the dad was coming for them, and they put the dad to sleep and took his powers and or killed them. One of those two. And then so the mom was pissed off, because he gave order, right? Every time they were getting out of hand, he would say, hey, knock that shit off. They didn't like that. But he said, fuck it, I'm tired of telling them over and over again. I'm just going to fucking kill him. And then they found that out, so they fucking out of self-defense killed him first. Who's right, who's wrong, I don't know. But that's just the story. And then she got pissed off because that was her husband. She said, oh no, he was right, these babies got to die. Let's kill them. So she makes these demon monsters, is what they are called. But anyways, which is stupid. It's just people being stupid. But anyways, she creates these beings, makes one the king, the head honcho, and then Marduk is this other planet coming through the solar system that they're all seeing. And it's like, man, this guy's huge, this guy's big, he's spitting fire, he's fucking sick, he's got 10 halos, all this crazy shit, they're really intrigued by it. But during this time, Neptune at this point is the furthest one in the solar system. So he sees it coming, and Neptune is pretty cool. He can do kind of the things that Saturn can do right now. But anyways, so they all try to go up against their mom, or their mom's main demon, or the other demon guys, and they either all chicken out or lose a fight. They don't die, but they all lose the fight or chicken out. So they don't know what to do. And I think it's Saturn who keeps plotting. And then he gets his little moon dude buddy, Pluto, to go around telling everybody, okay, here's the plan. We're going to get Murdoch to fucking wipe out Mom, so she doesn't wipe us out. And so Murdoch goes by Saturn after he, goes by Neptune and Uranus, and then he gets caught in his shit or whatever, and then they say he kisses, so I don't know if that means they hit. But then, he from there, after that happens, he says, okay, Saturn, anyways, Kishar, or something like that, is the Jupiter from the one I listen to. Now, if you go on Google, you're going to get different names. You go on books, you're going to get different names. It's very hard to pinpoint the names. So what do? I use the ones I see the most popular of the top three, and I use those when I do things like with Saturn, Satan on the candle, just so I get everybody's energy that's ever in Satan. Well, that's the energy that's going to go in my candle. I don't think of Satan as a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. People that believe in him and make him a bad guy are the bad guys to me. But anyways, I'll put all the names that refer to Saturn on my candle when I'm doing something like today, for example. But anyway, so that's a little bit about that. Oh, yeah, so whenever he goes by Saturn, he's like, okay, fine. You want me to take care of your mom? I can take her out, but you guys are going to hold an assembly, a meeting, a council, and you're going to fucking point me, the God of you gods. I'm the king of you fucking gods, okay? Then I'll take her out for you. We got a deal. So they figure, well, we were all too scared to do it. We're not going to do it. Either she's going to kill us or this guy's just going to go away or he's able to kill her. And, we get to stay alive. And, you got to talk to this guy. And, the odds that he's probably going to lose against Mom because she's pretty powerful. We all back down, so what are the odds he's not going to do that? So, yeah, no problem, bud. You can be king of us. No fucking issue. And he goes in there, and she's shooting spells at him, but he takes out her demon, and, he's got a net, and apparently some places he's got magic spells, too, that he shoots at her or uses words, and blah, blah, blah. Point is, he fucking mangles her. Boom! That's the asteroid belt. That's separating the heavens from the planes. He makes us out of the blood from her main demon fucking king guy, and so we're half demon and we're half God, basically, which is why we both have negative and positive, which is a really good way to look at it, in my opinion. Doesn't make it true, but just a good way to look at it, because we do have all these primordial fucking things that rule us, such as hunger, anger, lust, love, passion, jealousy, hate, fear, envy, greed, passion, compassion, all these things that rule us. These are all parts of either the gods or the demons or both. So, it is what it is, and it's a good way. It's not any less accurate than, anything that the Bible is telling you how we came from. In fact, it's actually more accurate. And even in the Bible, they actually use words that are derived from the word Tiamat. Because in the beginning, the God that created that realm, which is technically the Mordar, whatever word I just said at the M, the big guy that said, hey, make me your king. And it kind of reminds you of Mordor and shit like that from Lord of the Rings. But anyways, well, he's the God from the Bible, technically speaking. He would be the God from the Bible. And they refer to him breaking up watery fucking something, which would be the watery planet of Tiamat, to make heaven, earth, people, and everything in it. So Jesus' disciples even talk about that. I forget which one. So point is, the Bible refers to this story as well. So obviously it had an effect on it, and it was back then when the people writing the Bible had it. So whether the Bible was actually the people in it, it was actually a story that we believe, or the people that wrote the Bible knew about the Babylonian Sumerian shit. It doesn't matter. The point is, the Bible points to this story of Sumer, of Mesopotamia, and that gives it a little bit of oomph to me anyways, because, most people take the Bible real. Well, if you take the Bible real, the Bible, Old Testament and New Testament, refers to this creation story being before Genesis. This is what he did, Genesis. Genesis is about him creating the heavens and the earth and all that, and the man and all that. So, well, how did he make that? Well, they kind of say in a few little lines that he did it from Tiamat. It was, fucking Mordor. What the fuck was his name anyways? That guy, the god of the fucking Bible or whatever, who was supposed to come back, and then Babylonians changed that into all these Enkis and Anunnaki names and shit like that I was talking about not that long ago. And you go to Egyptian, well, they kind of have similar stories, and they focus more on creation in a better, more profound way, but they had more years to work on it. So anyways, all that to say, this is where I'm getting a lot of my inspiration lately. And doesn't mean I take it word for word literally that it's what happened, but I think it's very interesting checking it out. And I think it wasn't that long ago that I said I'm guilty of, going back and looking at our history to try to find out where we come from, but you can't take any of this for, this is like the creation of the solar system, and then it concentrates, if you take the Genesis or even the Gnostic, books from the Nag Hammadi library or whatever for our creation. Well, it's all basically the same. It all comes from the same place. But anyways, enough about the creation story. Maybe I'll come back and circle around to that after. But like I said last episode, I want to get back into magic. And my last episode, I focused on reject, banish, deny, and accepting the thoughts and how that will change your life on its own without doing sigils, without having an altar, without doing ritual magic. That alone is probably the best thing I could suggest to everybody who is starting this out, who doesn't either have the discipline, the time, or even want to start the book Kabbalah and the Great Work of Self-Transformation, or Initiation to Hermetics from Franz Barton. I think both are great starters, and, Franz Barton is free on YouTube, and it will help you take back your mind very similar, if not maybe even better ways than Kabbalah, Great Work of Self-Transformation. I am more drawn to Kabbalah, Great Work of Self-Transformation, because I like fucking with candles, I like altar, I like all that kind of work. But with Franz Barton, it's a lot of it, it's mostly in your head, okay? A lot of it is like blessing your food before you're eating it, saying what you want your food to do. Every time you take a sip of water, you're being aware of what you're doing, and, whatever you want to happen, you say, by drinking this water, this such thing may happen, or this is going to happen, or it's going to heal this, or whatever. It's a lot of little tricks like that. Like I said many times, that's where I got the idea of taking off all the dead skin off the body, because that's one thing he says, and you can start learning how to breathe through the pores of your body instead of through your lungs out your mouth. Which is I'm nowhere near that step, but it's definitely a crazy concept. Like I said way in the beginning before, when I read that, I didn't even think that was possible. I thought it was one of those magical things that only maybe fucking Yogin the guys in the fucking temples that meditate all day long, I forget the name of them, but anyways, those fuckers, like a Yoda motherfucker, would be able to do. And then my son, synchronicity has it, and it's not always nice synchronicity, like this story. It's not a nice synchronicity. When my oldest boy, stepboy, got, we discovered he had epilepsy. Well, the doctor said they can't be near bodies of water, and I've said this many times. I'll just repeat it real fast for anybody new who hasn't listened to my older stuff, but you can't go around bodies of water. And I said, well, that makes sense. They're obviously not conscious, so they would drown. He said, well, that's not necessarily the reason why. However, obviously, that's something that it's a possibility. Anybody gets knocked out, goes in the water, well, they're going to drown. But sometimes they'll not wake the person up. But someone having an epileptic fit, they breathe through their pores. They are no longer breathing through their lungs and their mouth. And I'm like, what? Really? Because this just floored me. Because what are the odds that I read a book, and in the book it's telling me that you can breathe through your fucking pores at a certain point, but first you have to keep continuously every day, rub your skin with a rag until it's like pink, and this way you got all the dead skin off, therefore your pores are all open, and this way your skin's regenerating new skin all the time. It'll help you to look younger, make your body last longer for many different ways, and even more than that, you can start doing these different exercises to practice learning, breathing through your fucking pores instead of your lungs. Now, how fucking great would that be? You wouldn't even need an oxygen. Well, obviously, you'd still need an oxygen tank to go underwater, unless only your back is above the water and exposed. Anyways, I don't know where we're going to go with that, but point is, that book is free online on YouTube, and you can listen to it anytime you want if you don't even want to go buy a book or have a book or whatever the case is. And, so those are my two, but if anybody doesn't want to do those things, they can just do the reject, banish, deny, and accept the thoughts they do like, which is just banishing away any bad idea you get in your head, anytime you're having anxiety, stress, you worry, or just in the moment, your kid's doing something bad and you're thinking of some fucked up outcome that this is going to happen, or whatever the case is, you banish those away. And then likewise, if you have these good positive ideas, say you're daydreaming about winning money or meeting somebody, or, things working in your favor, and instead of saying, oh, that's not going to happen, or something like that, you say, yeah, I accept that thought. Because by saying, oh, that's not going to happen, you're kind of probably pushing it away. Now, I know I said the not doesn't really count, but once again, there's no way to prove any of this stuff. But when you do magic, you will figure out that if you start writing your statements of intent using negative words, you don't have to take my word for it, and I got this from Birch, and you don't have to take his word for it, but if you start doing that, you're going to notice that the things you ask for end up happening in the reverse order because you're using negative words. So this is something that has been scientifically tested through ritual magic, meaning people that do this using the negative words have the opposite outcome. I do not want such and such. Well, then they get such and such. And it's like, what the fuck? I asked for not this and I got it. So yeah, great, they got a reaction, but they're getting the opposite reaction. Why is that? Well, it's because of the way you worded it. You didn't follow the rules that were set out for you. This language of not, don't, haven't, all these negative ways of saying things. Instead of like literally just saying, I am free from this. Anyway, it's very hard to find ways to say that without saying free from. It's always my go-to if I can't think of another way. But there are many ways to say something that you're trying to say you don't have or you don't want without actually saying, I don't want this, basically. So, but anyways, that's what the last episode was about. And like I said, I want to focus more on magical stuff. So, recently I did an episode about the movie Monsters, Inc., Egregores, Archons, and stuff like that. And, my daughters are watching Toy Story a lot, and obviously I get some profound shit from there. But I was saying something earlier in the beginning that I wanted to re-bring up. Fucking what the fuck was it? God, I hate when I do this. But, so the idea of magic, saying stuff is things happening. I said before in my last episode that whether you want to believe that there's power in the words we use, and by saying certain words you get a magical outcome, or if it's the fact that you have the thought, and when you accept it, it comes into reality, and when you don't accept the ones that you do want, you're basically banishing them away. People are doing reject, banish, deny, in the opposite way they want, because what happens is with their life and their circumstances, if they have a thought about them becoming rich, winning money, or being successful at their job, if they don't have or think they're lucky enough for that to happen, then they're going to banish that away in the way that they know how. Oh, yeah, like that's ever going to fucking happen. And just stop thinking about it. So basically, their mind thought the idea, hey, is this something you want? And they're saying, no, I don't want that. But really, they want it, but in this sarcastic way, like, oh, like that's ever going to happen. They're basically saying, yeah, I want that to happen, but it's not going to happen. And then they end up banishing it away. And likewise, whenever a bad thing comes in their mind, like, oh, you're probably going to have enough money for your mortgage or your rent this month. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's happened so many times now. I'll deal with that when that happens. They're accepting that thought. And lo and behold, there it fucking happens. So all I'm trying to say is to get people to be aware that they're doing this and then to do it the proper way going forward. Now, it doesn't matter if something is about to happen and you try to banish it and it doesn't happen. You're like, oh, Corey's full of shit. Well, it's like, no, up until that point, you kept accepting those ideas, and then the first time you realize or catch yourself being able to actually do this right before said thing's about to happen, and you only banished it once out of all the times you've accepted it, probably 100 times before that, well, what do you think's going to happen? There's power in numbers, so this last episode. So if you do something 99 times, accept something 99 times, and then the last time you banish it, you really think you're going to be able to sway all those other times? No. If it was a 51 to 49, then I'd say, okay, maybe you got something you can go on and call me a fucking liar. But, even that is like, well, it's fucking almost 50-50, man. It's almost half the time you said yes, half the time you said no. So which one is it? It doesn't fucking know. And it's just going to bring you. And if it doesn't know, this is important too. If it doesn't know, let's say it's like, oh, fuck, what does he want? He's accepted it, but he's also denied it and banished it. So what do we give him? Well, let's just go by default. What is the thing we've given him more times? Because if he can't pick, well, we'll go with the history. How many times has he gotten what he's just banished away, and how many times has he accepted what he's trying to banish away now? And, obviously you've received that shitty circumstance more times because you're obviously just starting this path now. Therefore, nature's going to fill that hole with what's been there before because you didn't replace it with something correctly. So that's another way to look at this. But I want to go a little further into, and like I said before, the study of thought forms will open up your eyes so fucking wide into everything. Because if you think about Toy Story, okay, Toy Story is a story about the toys coming to life when people aren't around. And you can say, well, if you're going to fucking say that that's real, then, I'm going to turn your channel off. And I'm saying that is real, but not the way they explain it. They put it that way so it's interesting to kids, but also speaks to us on a level because most people had given, if someone's really creative, they don't need toys, they'll make up their own imaginary friends. Now, I've had a few, but I was more the type to give my toys personifications, meaning like any toy I had a name and it had meaning and, something elsewhere would talk to me for that toy, but it wasn't necessarily the toy talking to me. Okay, so like once again, this comes back to the thought thing I said. You get these thoughts in your head. So you're playing with your fucking favorite teddy bear as a child, and you're having this game going on with the teddy bear. So you say stuff to the teddy bear, and then you wait for the teddy bear to respond. Now, the teddy bear doesn't physically respond to you, but in your head, you get a response. And you can say, okay, well, it's a child making up its response to the teddy bear. Fair enough. That's probably logical if you believe your thoughts come from you. Now, I don't believe our thoughts come from me, and I can prove that. But I don't think people are ready for all that fucking proof yet, because it's pretty profound stuff. But I'll give you some things as I go along in this fucking thing I call ceremonial witchcraft, and, you know, you can make up your own fucking mind. But like I said before, when you point at something, you get thoughts that circle that something. But if you don't point at something, you're going to get a bunch of random thoughts. Like I said about the TV thing, it was made to drown that shit out. So maybe that's part of the problem. And then whenever you're not watching TV anymore, all those thoughts you put on hold come bombarded at you. But anyway, back to the child with the toy. Now, he loves this teddy bear. He puts time and effort in saying the teddy bear lives with me, and plays a game feeding that teddy bear with something, and the teddy bear does things. The teddy bear has a job within the game, whether it's you're the teacher, the teddy bear is the student, or it's your best friend, or whatever the case is. So let's look at this as a thought form. The child has now gave this thought form. It's got a physical appearance. It's got a gender, probably male or female. It's got a name. It's got a home. It's got something it feeds off of to keep going. It has all the attributes of what we call a thought form. So if the kid puts emotion into this, which, you know, if the kid's visualizing a game and having a good time, there's a lot of happy emotion there. Therefore, a thought form was born around that fucking toy, that teddy bear, that whatever it is. And you can likewise say, well, that means there is something answering him, and it's something he created himself. Absolutely. And that's how these things work. We create entities to go do something for us. Now, does that mean when a magician creates a servitor, he makes a picture of it and all that, and this is what it looks like, and he has to visualize it going out and doing what he wants it to do. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there's a being that you created that looks like that going out. However, I'm not entirely not convinced, I'm kind of positive that the people that can see thought forms would see some version of that thought form looking the way it does if their talent is to be able to actually see with their physical eyes. Their physical sense of sight is attached to their talent, that is, whatever, sixth sense or whatever, the way they perceive thought forms, okay? Their thinking process is the sixth sense, is a sixth sense. When you think and you hear thoughts, that's everybody's sixth sense. We all have that. But some people have that attached to touch, hearing, smell, sight, or feeling. Sometimes multiple of those. I don't know if I said it in my last episode or not. I think this is some of the deleted material or the lost material from my alien episode. This is some of the material from my last episode that I lost, that I deleted by accident, though, the last episode. And it's the fact that I can't really see thought forms, but I have seen some weird shit from time to time. Corner out of my eye, happens daily, shit like that. Things in the walls, things around plants all the time, okay? But it's not something I can actually see when I go focus on it. Whereas I can hear them more than anything, and I can now distinguish what's the normal thoughts that come to me, which aren't my thoughts, but it's something that's coming from myself. That's why I hinted at, I think it's probably the subconscious sending us those thoughts. So it's not coming from our mind, but it is coming from our mind in a certain sense. But it's not your conscious mind that you use to read, write, and speak. It's a subconscious mind that everybody should be learning to get in touch with. So that's where my normal thoughts go, and I can distinguish that from when I get thoughts from other places and other things and other beings. And that's what I meant by that. Because everybody can hear thoughts. And so if someone can't distinguish between what is coming from their subconscious mind, which is what I believe anyways, and I can't prove this, but this is how I look at it, and this is how it works for me. So when I realize that every thought that I have isn't my own, but it's coming from either a spirit, deity, this is before I realize or think it's my subconscious mind, which is what I think now. But I used to, as soon as I said, you know what, these thoughts aren't mine, they're from somewhere else, I'm going to start thinking and being grateful for these thoughts because they're not coming from me and I want them to keep coming. When I did that, my ability to come up with correspondences and hear the voices increased like double. And then when I started realizing my subconscious mind was one source and then there was other sources, it increased even more to the point that I'm having multiple sources come to me Now, maybe this is what people talk about when they have voices in their head. Maybe it's multiple personality. I don't know, but I don't take on multiple personalities because I do banish, reject, deny. Now, if I was hearing all these voices without the ability to banish, reject, deny, or accept the ones I do want, then I would say you're probably right. Maybe I'm hearing voices. Maybe I'm going crazy. Whatever the case is. But because I don't accept the ones I reject, I banish, deny the ones I don't want, I'm able to keep them at bay. These things can't take over myself, my consciousness. They can't talk through me.
All right, so just quickly back on the thing I was talking about, the thoughts, and how my abilities increase to be able to distinguish thoughts. This was part of my whole alien thing I was talking about first episode. I made some of the lost information, and some, like I said before, some of the deleted information. I went into a little bit more in depth on how when I started my New Age time, while I was still working at my one job, the one that I got the 10 grand from upon leaving, which I was the last person to get that 10 grand, and everybody else after me did not. I've said this I think already before too, that when I was in a good state, good mood, I was able to stick to the New Age, code of ethics, so to be, but there wasn't much there for when you're down, depressed, and in a bad way, when you're in a bad mood. The only thing that was there was, when you're in a bad mood, put yourself in a good mood. Try to think of something positive and make yourself positive again. Try to put yourself in a person's shoes. That kind of, not satire, but that kind of shit basically was, promoted. And maybe some people are able to do that, so maybe it does hold weight. But for me, when I'm in a bad place, I'm in an angry mood, bud, I'm consumed by it. Even now, I can become consumed with anger when I'm in a fight with my wife. I can't do anything else right until there's something that has to be said or done, or we have to reach either the climax to make the fight at its worst potential so that we can start repairing this fight, or something has to give before I can do anything. And when that happens over something else, let's say at work or whatever, there's no way I can just say, okay, well, put my feet in my boss's shoes, because no matter what I look at through his quote-unquote shoes, it's going to be skewed by my belief and how I'm being oppressed by him, let's say. But anyways, all that just to say that I wasn't able to do this shit whenever I was in a dark place or mad or pissed off. It wasn't until starting the curriculum, Reject, Banish, Deny, came along that I was able to start doing that. But even then, like I just said, I still can get consumed by it. But through the practice of rejecting, banishing, and denying the bad thoughts, every time the really bad ones come out of my mind, like when I'm mad at my wife for whatever reason, and I say something, it's like, well, no, that's too far. I banish that thought. I reject that thought. And any thoughts I have of an outcome due to this, like what if we get divorced or anything like that, I banish that right away, so that's not even a possibility once again. But still, that doesn't change my mood. It's not a strategy for changing your mood. But it does help, I think, in the long run for you to not continue fighting with your lover, your wife, your fiance, your partner, whoever it is, right? I think it's a semi-solution that helps out in the long run, but not in the short term. Because in the short term, well, you're still fucking pretty pissed off. You're still angry. You're still very upset over whatever was done, whatever was said, whatever was did, whatever happened, whatever you're fighting about. But likewise, you get thoughts when you're in those areas too, and that's why you do need to do this reject, banish, deny. But anyways, it wasn't until I started the curriculum that I could start seeing and focusing and learning about thoughts and all this. And whenever I found out about the banish, reject, deny thing and allow, me and my wife weren't getting it as many thoughts, because anytime I had thoughts of that, when I could remember it, I would banish it away. But the point was, even back then, when I was just, working, and before I got into spirituality, and even when I was just in law of attraction, New Age spirituality, I wasn't able to do anything New Age or anything spiritual about my anger still. Everything was great when everything was great, and I could stick to things, I could try things, and I got results from things. But when things went sour, it almost pissed me off more, because well, great, now my manifestations won't happen because I'm in a negative place, and these fucking fuckers just say to change your negative emotions, and who the fuck can just do that? No one, I don't think, can. But I'm not going to go that far and use an absolute, because what the fuck do I know? But the point is, I used to just have my default reactions when I got mad, and I had default reactions when I was happy. And then going through the process of depolarization and then doing the reject, banish, deny, and middle pillar and all the banishing of the pentagram, all these rituals and different little exercises in my head, well, they helped me sort out my thoughts to the point where I could aim a thought at a specific topic and get information from that thought. And by continuously developing this, by listening to people like Peterson say, if you want to become a great speaker, you need to read and write. And it's like, and he's got some really good ways to prove how that would help you learn how to read and write. Learn how reading and writing helps you become a great public speaker, and how to make you think. Because a lot of people don't think. If you don't have to meditate or nothing, but if you have a fucking problem and you sit on the end of your bed and ask yourself seriously, like, okay, I don't know how to fix this. What do I need to do to fix this? And first things that are going to come to your mind are going to be, well, let's say if you have a substance problem, abuse problem, something. So, well, if you stop going to pick up this drug, then these other problems happen whenever you and your wife fight over you lying about money. Well, that shit won't happen anymore. So it's a pretty easy fix. But sometimes people don't even want to admit that part. They want to be able to keep going to get the dope and lying to their wife about it. And, then if you're that person who wants to find a better way to lie to your wife, well, I can't help you either, because you have to either be honest with your wife or find a wife that's going to fucking allow you to go get dope without you having to lie. Or set your programming that lying isn't bad, that you can lie to people no matter what. But I'm pretty sure that's something that may not be able to be changed very easily. I'm not saying it can't be done, because I truly believe you can insert any programming in your mind and justify anything. Like I said before, if you're doing crimes to make money, God knows I've done plenty in my lifetime, but you want to get rid of that programming that the bad guy always loses, and you want to make sure you're not the bad guy. Because if you think you're bad and people come up to you saying you shouldn't do that, and what about jail and this and that over and over again, that's getting into your mind, and then eventually something bad could happen. So I told that to my one buddy, who ended up getting in trouble, and he was having dreams about him going in and all that right before it happened. And so anyways, that's besides the point. But I can feel energy and I can hear energy. And the feeling the energy, depending on where you look, it could be anything from signs of demonic possession. It could be fucking fairies dancing on you, the way I have the energy tingles on my hand. Sometimes it's almost like, you ever feel your hands get dry, like dry skin, but like when it's getting dry, well, it feels like that, except my hands aren't dry. Sometimes it's kind of a mix between an electrical current and your hand going numb, because it's not one or the other, but it's somewhere in the middle of that spectrum, what it feels like. This happens to me daily. It happens so much more than even just the seeing different energies and colors and different things like that. But like I said, there's a lot of different fairy stories talk about that. So it's a sign of a fairies around you and shit like that. Who knows? But energy, fairies, ghosts, spirits, aliens, these things to me are interconnected. Aliens would be more from the sky, as in a heavenly figure, versus a fairy is an earth spirit, more or less. There are some fire fairies and water fairies and all that. So within the fairies, you have different elemental spirits, which I believe are one and the same, but maybe not all there is. I don't think water fairies are the only elemental spirit that resides in water. But that's not what this is about. And I'm not saying I believe or don't believe in fairies. I think there's a lot of good literature out there. There's a lot of different people that believe in fairy lore, and the closer you get to Ireland, the more pronounced and the more people are into that. And I mean, there's like stories about famous dudes fucking cutting down fucking trees that are, fairy trees, and going to jail for the rest of their life and shit like that. So DeLorean comes to mind. I don't know if he went to jail or not. There's stories about him not even going to jail, but it is what it is. But anyways, I'm just trying to get to I guess I'm just trying to say that I was just like everybody else. As a child, I think I was more creative than the regular person. I think I still am more creative than, someone who is quote unquote normal, if there's such a thing. But I'm not so creative that I could just make a picture out of thin air, because I can draw fairly well, but I have to look at a picture to do it. Whereas I've had friends, one of my childhood friends, Evan, was able to draw a picture out of thin air, and it was amazing. Now, if he gave me that picture, I can draw it, and it didn't look exactly like his. It had my own little style to it, and truth be told, mine would be like a 7 out of 10, and his would be like 11 out of 10. But still, that 7 was pretty good. I've always had this ability to be good at various things, but never really excellent at any of them. But when I really went down into something for a good period of time, put my mind to it, I could keep getting gains and getting better at something. You know what I mean? And I think if I really stuck to one thing, I'd be able to. But the problem is, I have the kind of mind that's interested in so many things all at once. Just like I have all these thoughts all at once. That's within my entire mind, body, physical, ethereal realm, I guess, so to speak. It's within my soul that I like doing so many different things and try to do multiple things at once. And I want to be good at different things. There's never been just one thing I wanted to be extremely good at. There's a bunch of things I want to be extremely good at. And it's very hard to split yourself up in all those directions. But I found out that I can be fucking better than most at most of these things, which isn't so much a big deal to me anymore, but at one time was.
So all this isn't just to toot my own horn or pretend like I'm good at anything, and it's not so people say, oh shit, you can get to a point where you know when it's your subconscious mind talking to you, and you can distinguish what other spirits are talking to you, and I say, yeah, you can get to that point. At least I am able to, and I am there. But at the same sense, I don't want people to strive for that, to go from nothing to try to figure out what the voices in their head are saying, because, you know, once again, you might cross that line of crazy, because I'm not going to pretend that this stuff doesn't sometimes, you know, take me in some weird directions. And who knows, there's a lot of parts of Goetia when they say talking to demons, to not take the demon's word for it, because they aren't always truthful, these spirits. They don't always tell you the truth. They're not always accurate. And some of the information I get is not always accurate. So it's like, well, what the hell am I actually talking to? And this is one of the things that tell me I'm speaking to something other than my subconscious mind. So my subconscious mind is normally pretty accurate.
Because every time that I get information, whether it's information I put out here on this channel or I'm writing on my book, and it's something like I'm talking about something I've already researched, and then I get to a topic, who knows how or why, but I get to a specific topic within the topic I chose to speak about, whether it's something completely different, something related. But when I get to that point, if I start saying something that, you know, is coming to me as I say it, like, I don't know, the shit just comes out. I mean, you can try to dissect this if you want, but start talking, start recording yourself, talking about something you think you know about. Maybe it's a podcast you want to make. Maybe you just want to make a pretend podcast. Try it, do it, record it, and see how you start talking, and start talking about things you had no intention of talking about, nor did you even know you were going to say. And you're going to understand what I mean by how this is very like and akin to channeling, because you start speaking and saying stuff, and it's like something comes over you, and you get these ideas about what do you want to say next. And then sometimes if you want to finish your thought and then you try to come back to that idea, it's gone. And if you're lucky, it'll come back to you by the end of the time. But that idea wasn't your idea to begin with from the get-go, nor was it something you read about or searched about. And that's why you want it to come back, but you don't even know how to make it come back because you never even thought about it in the first place. So, but anyways, that's what I kind of mean by whenever I know it's other things speaking to me. And this is mostly when I want to hit the banish, reject, deny. If it's something about what's going to happen to me or an outcome, then yeah, accept it if it's good and banish it if it's bad. Because if you are at that point where you know when it's your subconscious mind talking to you or something elsewhere, especially if you're in a different state. If you're in a very happy state, you should be very mindful of your thoughts. Likewise, if you're in a very dark state, it's very hard to do, but if you're in a very dark place, you also want to be very mindful of where your thoughts are coming from. At the very least, try to make sure they're ones you want to accept. It doesn't matter where they come from. It doesn't matter if you're talking angels, demons, devils, aliens, spirits, saints. It doesn't matter what you think it is. All that matters is you only accept the ones that you want to play out, and you get rid of the ones you don't want to play out. And that's how you start living the life that you choose, that you want. Otherwise, you're just at the whims of these thoughts that you think are your own. But you can get to a place with practice. And I think I would say anybody who does any kind of truth podcasting, even whether they're spiritual or not, would be able to probably tell you on a certain level that some of their best episodes happened when they were probably either not talking about something specific, or they were trying to talk about one thing and they ended up going on another thing. Because I've seen good episodes that were named something else from multiple people, and then within that episode they talk about something specific, and when you go to try to find that episode, you can't find it because it's not in the title, because that's not what they wanted to talk about, but they end up talking about something very profound. And to me, that happens to me often. Not that I'm saying my episodes are great by accident sometimes from somewhere else, but when you're listening to me, Corey LeBlanc, it's not me. It's whatever spirit is coming through the ceremonial witch, which is probably my subconscious mind, almost always. And it's all the shit that I read, fell asleep to, listened to as a child, learned from various different places.
So I guess I'm a little leery about even putting out this information. Even the last 2 episodes when I got into thoughts and shit like that. I think I lost 2 subscribers from YouTube, but I gained 1 because it says +1, but I was at 15. I was kind of like, what the fuck? How am I +1 when I was at 16? I'm down to 15. And it showed me I lost 2 subscribers, and then I went up 1, I think. But, I mean, like I said before, and even on YouTube, but 90% of the videos watched are from unsubscribed people, so not that I don't like that I have subscribers. I think it's great that I have fucking 16 subscribers there, that I got 5 on Spreaker, and then I've got 86 people following me on Instagram, and I mean, probably most of those are just people that don't even watch my shit, just to have, they follow me so I follow them back, and it's just for a place, Spreaker and YouTube are obviously places where people can get my information. It's just 2 more places, and Spreaker distributes my podcast through iTunes, Apple Play, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, and so many various new and newer places all the time. So that's why I like using Spreaker, because it serves on multiple platforms. And YouTube is likewise another platform for people to be able to, because you can comment on Spreaker, you can comment on YouTube, and they're both attached to my email. And obviously Instagram was just to have some kind of social media that's different from Spreaker and YouTube, because YouTube is a type of social media, I'd say, but it's not as interactive as maybe like Facebook. And the Facebook thing, I've thoroughly and given up on trying to make a fucking whatever, because clearly I'm flagged by either someone or something that, whether I fake my name or not, I just can't have a page. The minute I do anything, I mean, the last 2 times I didn't even upload any of my videos. First 2 times I uploaded videos and said, okay, maybe someone doesn't like my information, maybe someone, whatever, but I'm not offending anybody or hurting anybody, calling anybody names or breaking any rules as far as I'm concerned, but I get flagged, so it is what it is. But losing those 2 subscribers, I don't know if it's because I promoted Tom McDonald on my last episode. I think he's a Canadian rapper, and I think he's got some good stuff to say. He might be controversial in the same way that Jordan Peterson is controversial, and absolutely, because I play his songs and those poetry things at the beginning of my episode, does not mean I share his same views, because, I probably have a lot of the same views as him, and I probably have a lot of different views as well. I like his use of law of attraction speak, sacred geometry, putting stuff in his raps, using subconscious mind, your thoughts create reality. I like that stuff. And I've always liked rap, and the fact that rappers only promote stuff that is bad and make kids want to rebel is something that I think is a problem. And using drugs and shit like that, and being someone who used drugs and listened to rap and music about doing drugs, I know that there is a correlation. So any person who raps well, and by well I mean he's fucking amazing. He can string these raps together fast, slow, and make them fucking profound. I haven't seen anybody be able to put words, stories, raps together like that since like Eminem, basically back when Eminem was younger, and Eminem did it in ways of, talking about killing his wife and crazy stuff, but he can also make some pretty profound songs, especially whenever he got off the drugs, and then he did some collaborations. I loved it. But I find Tom a little more, he's gotten into this beef with that fucking Mac something. Anyways, I don't know, I forget the guy's name, and, whatever, that guy's pretend rapper that likes to pretend to battle people and pretend to win, whatever the case is, and he's making fun of Tom. I'm biased because I like Tom, so that kind of thing I don't think there's any time for or place for, but, the other guy started it and he finished it, and it is what it is, and, if it gives him more popularity and more people onto his music, then so be it. He's got a good message out there for the most part that I think people should hear, and if it's me talking about the mind and hearing voices in my head, or the fact that I promoted him, and that somebody doesn't like, well, then I am very sorry. I'm very sorry to lose you as a subscriber, but I'm not going to apologize for something I do like and enjoy and think has a good message. Once again, I played many different things on here, such as, the Interview with the Devil book, by Napoleon Hill, and that's pretty controversial, and it talks about, you know, Christian views and stuff like that. And I've put various things on here, Luciferian doctrine on here, and, you know, it is what it is. I put information out that I believe people need to know, and I want people to be depolarized in their thinking. And if you can't look at something that is a little offensive and try to see what they're saying, and even just, okay, well, you know, this guy's wrong, but it is what it is, and I can remember a time where I might have been wrong if you're not balanced enough to try to do that, or, because not everybody's at that stage yet, so you can be not balanced enough to see that, but hope that one day you can be that balanced. And that's the hope, right? You always want to become better. You don't want to stay stagnant in one spot and just grab onto an ideology and just be possessed by it. If you decide to not listen to somebody because you heard that they're this and you heard that they're that, and then you watch one thing and you think that they are some type of belief system ideology that is opposed to yours, well, then you should really check your ideology and see why it's opposed to certain groups, because we are all one and there should be no fighting between any of us. And the fact that I even have to talk about this is just stupid. But I want to empower people. I want to enlighten people as much as I've already had the enlightening processes that I've had. I'm not enlightened. I'm not advanced. I'm not anything like that. But I am probably ahead of some people, and I'm probably way behind a lot more other people. And I want to just be that middle ground so that people know that it's not just from zero to fucking guru. Because how the fuck are you going to learn if you can't get a hold of a fucking guru to follow? And with so many fake gurus out there ready to take your money and not teach you properly, it's just wrong in my book. And there are a lot of great guys you can learn from, but you might not have the money for it yet. You might not have found out how to manifest the money yet. Or maybe you went on Freighter's channel and you didn't manifest what because he gives you a fucking honey jar spell to make money, and it fucking works. So by all means, do that and get a program from him, because I'm promoting that and I'm saying that, and you should do that. It works, the honey jar ritual. You do it like he says, and this is assuming you're doing the other things from the book of all the great work of self-transformation. If you haven't done anything, if you don't try to meditate, if you don't try to become depolarized, if you're not doing the reject, banish, deny, and then you just try the money jar, well, don't expect the same results, because those results come from the other processes prior have to be done as well. And it is what it is. I'm not saying you have to be depolarized to have a successful money jar, but you have to be at least trying to be depolarized to have a successful money jar. And it's not for the reasons you might think. It doesn't mean you have to be depolarized to have magic work. It's that you have to have not incoherent, opposing thoughts coming in your head, fucking up your manifestation. That's the bottom line. As far as I can tell, that's the reason you cannot have successful magic if you're not trying to be depolarized. If you're trying to be depolarized, it means you are trying to reduce the bad and the thoughts that are going to harm your magic. So anytime you get a thought saying that you're going to be poor, you're not going to have, your magic's not going to work, if you're not banishing that away, then it's going to stop your magic from working, because you just did a ritual telling your mind you want to manifest this, but then after that, you are accepting a thought, which is no different than doing a ritual, trying to force a thought into your mind. You're accepting the next thought saying your magic's not going to work. Your magic's not going to work. And you can say, well, why would my mind do that to me? Well, it's a fucking test. You're not worthy of the fucking magic. You're not worthy of doing this shit if you can't if you don't know the basics. If you can't reject, deny, and banish these stupid, bad thoughts that are going to hurt you coming from your own subconscious, testing you, however you want to look at it. It's not just a test, but however you want to look at it. If you can't just simply do that to make your money or your honey jar work, well, then you're not worthy of that money. Because you're that guy that if he had that power, he would go into that bank and fucking push everybody out of the way and get to the money. And you would say you wouldn't harm anybody, but the minute someone did something wrong to you, you might take it too far, and it would be an accident, but the damage is already done. And, that's what I want to talk about today, is getting into that part of the thought forms and the thoughts. And like I said, I'm a little leery releasing this kind of information because, it looks kind of crazy on the surface. The fact that I'm talking about, I have different thoughts coming into my head, and I can tell which ones are from my subconscious mind and others are from other places that I can't identify, sounds a little wackadoo. But at the same time, I'm explaining that I know how to banish and not accept those thoughts. And if you think that's crazier than the person going around having thoughts about wanting to kill themselves and accepting it, well, then I would say, well, I think my way is righter than that way, because that way is a simple solution. You don't need to go get pills and shit. You need to start banishing those thoughts. whether you need to stay in your room for a week and just banish every time you have a thought, that to the point where every single day that's all you're doing is banishing away those thoughts until they stop, then that's what you need to fucking do. You don't need medication. Now, that doesn't mean there's not good things in medication. There are some people that do need certain medications because there are some chemistry problems with their mind, and whether it's because the parents were doing drugs during childbirth or something traumatic happened to them and they had an accident and they got their head unprepared, whatever the case is, there are places where things are okay, but it is being abused by either the doctors or the customers, whoever. So, no, you got to find that balance within all things, but magic is a force that allows things to happen, but the force isn't within a wand and some magical power flies out of that wand to push people out of your way. It's more like you create this thought form that can go and talk to other people through their minds. Understand that this is some pretty deep stuff, and it probably might be lost on some people, but if you can wrap your head around this, you're going to be pretty advanced in one shot. And I don't say that lightly because I don't think I'm advanced, but I think this is something that people need to understand about magic, and it links to what your thoughts are and where they come from. So everybody who does magic and everybody who doesn't do magic have these thoughts and create these thought forms. Anything you put energy into, whether it's you swearing or wishing somebody at your work was hurt or dead versus you trying to bring money to you, praying to God and putting enough love and energy into that. You're sending out these thought forms. And if these thought forms are done correctly by a magician, well then they're going to be successful. So this thought is going to get sent out. Whether you want to believe it looks like the picture you draw of this Monopoly guy who's going to make you a bunch of money online, and then all of a sudden it comes to you, this being goes out in the etheric realm and literally goes and behind the scenes gets you some money and puts it in your account. You can believe that if you want, but to me, it makes more sense and more likely, and this is what I think, and I believe this, and I can semi-prove it, but I can't go there yet, but the thought form you send out can be heard by other people. We can all hear thoughts. It doesn't mean the thoughts you're hearing are coming from your head. They could be coming from your child's head. They could be coming from the people that lived in your house's head before. They could be coming from the items around your place that someone made when they're either mad or very happy. You could be picking up these thoughts from everywhere. You get cravings sometimes from out of nowhere. You get these weird feelings from out of nowhere sometimes. You get these weird thoughts from out of nowhere sometimes. Or when you create a thought form, you send a thought form that you want somebody at your work to be hurt or wish they got sick or something like that. Well, that thought comes to them and says, oh, fuck, maybe I'm going to be sick. Am I coming down with something? And they start accepting that, not knowing where it came from. Well, that's the definition of your psychic fucking attack that everybody likes to talk about. It's people sending out these thoughts, wishing and putting enough emotion into something like, I hope this person gets sick.
But I truly believe that this is how thought forms magic in one specific way. I think there's different ways that this stuff manifests and works out for us all. But I think this is one of the most profound, one of the ways it works. From explaining psychic attack to thought forms to how reject, banish, deny will help you and stop bad things from happening to you. Now, before I go any further, I said I haven't heard anybody rap as good as Tom McDonald since Eminem, and I don't want to sound racist or anything like that because I've listened to many rappers, and actually the majority of the rappers I do listen to are not Caucasian. And Twista and Busta Rhymes are both two that I really have always enjoyed because of their fast rap style. But I've listened to, Jay-Z, Nas, Wayne, Wu-Tang was big when I was a kid, even P. Diddy, Tupac, all those guys, Dre, I love them all. But I like music I can relate to. Anything I can relate to, which is, I relate more now to stuff that Tom McDonald is rapping about. But back when I was doing illegal activity, obviously I liked rap that talked about other people doing illegal activity and getting away with it. So that suited me basically at the time. But I'm always looking for, fast rap is always very intriguing, but exceptional lyrics, is also something that's great. And, obviously, a very good style, a brand, something, a new sound, basically. Something original is what I like. But anyways, and the whole Mac Lethal thing, one thing I will say about the Mac Lethal beef with Tom McDonald, which I don't think is, it doesn't serve much point, but these two guys both understand energy. And Mac Lethal, whether he knows it or not, he understands energy because he knows by an up-and-come rising star like Tom McDonald, who's getting a lot of people watching him, and he's got many songs about, everybody hates me. It's all about how everybody's wasting their energy on them, and he's just, I'll keep taking your energy, no problem. And Birch talks about this extensively. So he understands energy. We all know that. Now, Mac Lethal might not understand it on that level, but he knows that if he starts a beef with Tom McDonald, that he's going to be seen. People are going to go watch his videos, keep going to his channel to see if he has got a response, which makes ads want to be played on his channel, which gives him money. So he understands the energy game. And, this kind of plays into the whole thought thing on a different level, but nonetheless, it's still the same. But the thoughts that we receive can be from others. And I really believe that, whether you can start thinking it's demons and other things coming to you, but when I can distinguish when it's not my subconscious mind and it's something that has to do with maybe money or financials or stressful things, let's think, I can sometimes assume that might come from a family member or something, so to speak. So like if your thoughts, your thoughts and thought forms, if you send a thought form out on purpose to do a specific task, well, it's not necessarily talking to that person, coming in their dreams, or making that person do things against their will. It's more likely they get these thoughts from your thought form, or your thought form is a thought that's always around them, and it's helping alter their thoughts. This is how I perceive it. And, if it's, let's say you want to meet this person, and this person's your soulmate, well, your thought form goes out there and finds somebody who you have described to be what you think your soulmate is. Well, this person is going to turn left instead of turning right. He's going to take a different ride home. He's going to go to a different bar instead of the bar he always goes to, and then boom, you're going to meet him. All these little things add up to one big thing, like I said previously. That's how this works. All the decisions you make are determined from your thoughts. Sorry, I'm trying to fucking read what I wrote and I can't even see that. Likewise, you're sending out messages to the universe or your subconscious mind to play out, to manifest, then it will alter others' minds for that to play out. Now, this plays into something I said a long time ago. I'll give you an example of this woman that found 30 grand at the ATM machine. The Brinks truck guy left it on top of the machine, went back to the truck. So for that woman to find that 30 grand on that machine, a bunch of things had to happen, especially when you realize that two people went in there after the Brinks guy before she went in and didn't even see that. Well, what had to be going in their mind, and what thoughts had to be going through those two people's heads to not look up and see that money? Likewise, what had to happen in the mind of the head of the Brinks guy to forget that money there, and for the other guy not to mention it? These are all little thoughts that happened in these people's head that allowed this person to find that $30,000. And this is another example of how, if you send a thought form out for you to find that 30 grand, which isn't the case with this woman. However, she found that money. For whatever reason, that guy had to get a phone call. He was thinking about his wife. His mind wasn't on his job. None of these people were. So, and, once again, hypothetically, if your mom and dad are praying for you, let's say, because they're worried about your financials or you, period. So they pray to God. Let's say their belief is in God. Well, they're praying for you to be successful, to find a job, to get money, to be able to survive, to pay your bills, whatever the case is. And, maybe you did a ritual to try to get money too. But then all of a sudden that thought from your mother comes because she put enough energy and worry into it. Let's say fear. That energy, that thought comes to you. And maybe it comes to you in kind of when you're in a fear mode because she sent it out with fear. So maybe you have to be in a fear mode to receive it. That part I'm unsure of, but that can kind of make sense. If someone sends you a love vibrational thought, then you get it when you're in your love vibrational, when you're in the same vibrational state as the thought was created in, or got energized with whatever thought. And likewise, if someone creates a good thought, like your mom wants you to have money, but she was fearful when she was thinking about it, and that thought gets sent to you. So you banish it away, and you just don't accept it because, it came at a fear, you're in fear, but you're like, well, maybe I'll win. I don't know how that would play out, but this is hypothetical for a reason. And, you banish it away for whatever reason. Well, maybe you should have accepted it. And, by banishing that, well, you just did a ritual for money, yet you're banishing this thought. So, it's gonna fuck you up. But I I wanted to paint that picture of how these thoughts and thought forms work and why we pick up thoughts and why we might not even hear our own thoughts. If you start meditating, you'll be able to argue this point a lot better with me than someone who doesn't, because if you're not meditating, then you're not hearing your own inner voice speaking to you. Once again, when you start, it's probably going to come at you a whole bunch of different ways, and none of it will make sense. But with practice, it starts making sense. Or by holding one thought in your head alone, you can make sense out of it, okay? And from there, you can work on hearing that inner voice, and maybe then you can determine it. Maybe the voice I hear from my subconscious is my thoughts, and that is what thinking is. And everything else is just thoughts coming from people who know me in the past, anybody who's randomly thinking about you. They say when your ears are ringing, someone's thinking about you. Well, the amount of people you know, whether you know a lot or a little, there's a good chance that someone at least once a day says your name or thinks about you in some subtle way. Therefore, your ear should be ringing once a day. And maybe that happens when you're sleeping, so you don't hear it. Point is, you're getting thoughts from somewhere else. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's always angels, demons, devils, spirits, gods, aliens. It doesn't mean that. It could be just the people around you. It could be that simple. And this is going to be just a little short episode today, just to put something out and see how good my short episode does versus my long episodes. And I'm going to wrap it up here real fast. But when I said about the medication and to banish your thoughts away if you're depressed now, I don't want anybody to think I'm being insensitive again and thinking that, if you're suicidal or very depressed, that it's not an easy thing whatsoever. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go on medication. I'm saying you should do what you think is right. Go with the inner voice inside. If you're going on medication, do your research, find out side effects, and see what people said about it from legitimate sources, not just random places, maybe on Facebook or other social media streams. Go to a legitimate, whatever you think is a legitimate source. But the medication you take, if you're in a bad place, if you're only getting random thoughts of suicide or depression, that's severe enough. You might want to talk to somebody about that, but you should try banishing them away. Try denying them as much as possible. In the beginning, you're going to have to do it often, but it will get better to a point where you might not be in a bad place at all. But if you're all the time feeling like that, if it's too overwhelming, well then you might need to go talk to a doctor, get on medication to help reduce that right away. And once it's reduced and you're in a better spot, then you can start doing this from a balanced place. And then maybe you can get a hold of those thoughts, banish them away, and then maybe reduce your meds or get off your meds if you feel like it. You don't have to. I'm not here to judge or tell anybody how they live their life. I think medications for everything and anything, whether it's depression, anxiety, or just different narcotics for ADHD and things, I think that all depends on the person. Because I think too many people think everybody's the same, and that if one kid with ADHD needs Ritalin, that all kids with ADHD need Ritalin. And I don't believe that's the case. Same thing with depression. I think some people can beat depression on their own. I think other people, it's too severe because of their makeup and they need different. It's the same thing with diet, with the veganism versus the meat. Some people probably need meat in their diet. Some people probably can do without it. And likewise, some people can be all vegan and some people can't. Some people might want to be vegan but can't do it, and they have to find different alternatives. Point is, everybody is different and everybody has to find their own balance. So don't just take what I say when I say, well, you don't need medication, just banish your thoughts away. That's not the fix to everything. It's a hell of a start, but it's not going to fix everything. And if you are dealing with something like that, please just don't try what I said and then end up something bad happening and be like, well, this person told him to do this and then this happened and I don't want that to be on me. Go see your doctor, talk to somebody, get informed, because I don't know you and I don't know your situation, so I can't just tell you what to do. But I do want to help people, and I don't think medication is always the answer, but I do think sometimes it helps you get to a spot where you can actually deal with things. And then once you get there, you can be stronger and then come off of the medication. I know that's certainly the case for drug addicts and shit like that, as I'm living proof of that. But I want people to think about how that works. If you can start doing these practices, and this will make your magic tight, man. It'll make it fucking work well. And just by banishing, rejecting, denying your thoughts, the bad ones, and accepting the good ones, you will make a world of change in your life that you can't even comprehend yet. But I'm telling you, it's going to be so profound. You're going to be like, my God, for something so simple, it has such great results. And not only that, it will help you understand all of this. It will help you distinguish what thoughts are yours and what thoughts are foreign coming to you, is probably the best way to put that. A lot of people think there's evil out there, evil entities and shit like that. But I'm telling you, from my perspective, all the bad thoughts we have that people act on come from either themselves, their subconscious mind, the things they watch, the things they allow into their mind, or from elsewhere, someone else thinking it. It might even be divine sometimes, but I think for the most part, it's from other humans, because we all have these powers. Some have these powers stronger than others, because where someone could be a talented hockey player and someone could be a talented singer, another person could be, this weirdo that no one likes, but can make powerful thought forms and is sending them out because everybody's picking on them. And then all these people around them are having these negative thoughts. They don't understand where they're coming from. This is the stuff that scary movies get written on, because it's true. There's people that have this, and if they don't understand it or explore magic to get a grip on this, then it could cause a lot of harm. And likewise, that cycle keep going back to them and making them have harm. Whether you want to call that karma or something else, it doesn't matter. But everybody can do this to a certain extent. And anytime you put enough energy into a thought, you create something like a thought form. So you might want to be careful what you're sending out there, especially if it's a loved one you think something terrible about by accident, and you accept that and put energy into that. You might want to just try to guard the gates of your mind, is all I want to put it. I want to get that message across, because this is the reason that they say to not throw pearls before swine, because it's very close to that magical wand that'll help you rob that bank and push guards out of your way. It's just not as intense as that. It's a subtle power that can do a whole lot of harm. And the reason being is because you can't even see the harm that it's doing. If you send negative thoughts to somebody, they can do everything from hurt their children or other people to kill themselves if they get enough bad thoughts. And if you put this in the hands of somebody bad or evil, let's say, quote unquote, then you are giving that person a way to harm people that doesn't trace back to them. And that's why this is made a cult. That's why this has devils on top of the pictures and upside down pentagrams. So people look at it and say, that shit's from the fucking devil. And good, because if you think that, you are not ready for this shit. Because you're the type of person that if somebody pisses you off, you're going to use magic to go fuck them up. And that's not the kind of people that should have this knowledge. Because if you're not well-rounded enough that if you get in a fight with your wife and you're pissed off at her, you're going to go send a fucking demon or an evil thought at her that she hurts herself, then yeah, you shouldn't have this shit. Likewise, if you can't handle me saying something like, well, and it probably wasn't nice to me to say, if you have cancer and you're not doing anything about it, then you deserve to die. That's pretty insensitive. But my point is, if you're going to sit there and not try to heal yourself and let everybody around you go crazy because they can't stand the thought of losing you, and you're not even going to fight for your own fucking life, well, to me, that's a pretty selfish thing to do. I think the person should do everything in their power, whether that's with a doctor or without a doctor. I think you should do both personally. Go see what the doctor has to say, do your own homeopathic things, get other opinions, travel, do whatever the fuck you need to do to make yourself better. Just showing your body, the universe, the divine, whoever, that you are willing to fight for your life, that you are worth something, shows that you love yourself and that you want to fight, and that'll make you healthy a little bit just by itself, and then the rest will come with that. But anyways, so I release this information now after I lose 2 subscribers, and, it's not a coincidence. Those people might not have been ready for it. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe they just clicked the button by accident. I don't know. I hope they come back if it was an accident. And in all honesty, like I said, 90% of the people that listen to my stuff is not even subscribed to me, whether it's on Spreaker, on YouTube, it doesn't matter. But I don't want people listening to me if they're going to use this knowledge in a wrong way. Because if you are just a casual listener and a cult person, and you realize that you can create thought forms by not even doing anything and just send it to people, well, yeah, that's not a good thing. But for some reason I have the feeling there's some force out there also helping this shit to go to the people that only are ready for it. Because people that are interested in this shit won't listen to it. They won't listen to my 3-hour-long fucking episodes and try to find out a little bit of information that is in there. Or watch Frater Xavier's monotone information, or go listen to Birch. They're not going to do that because they're not ready for it. And there's like a impulsive force of knocking on the door, say, this is boring, go do something better. This is boring, do something better. That impulsive force saves most people. So I know a lot of people like to think that, everybody's so impulsive nowadays, but it's probably a good thing with as much occult information flying around out there that anybody can get their hands on. Well, if people weren't so impulsive and get so bored so fast, a lot of people would probably have this shit. It would be in the wrong hands, basically. So, like I said before, there's a reason why a lot of this stuff is demonized. And then when you open it up, it's like, well, this shit's not about devils or demons at all. Well, why is that? Well, it's because the people that think this shit is of the devil and believe in the devil are the type of people that shouldn't have this, because they're the type that might be like, oh, fuck, okay, well, this is all I have to do. And then every fucking group that isn't of their own group. Let's say you're a Christian and you think that the other Christian groups are bad, or a Satanist group is bad. When you figure out, well, this stuff has power, well, then you're going to go and persecute those other fucking people. So by putting a fucking pentagram or a devil on it and saying it's demonic, well, there's no way some fucking self-righteous Christian is going to come along and grab this information and hurt the other groups with it. Because clearly that's not the people that deserve this knowledge. The only people that deserve this knowledge are the people that are willing to go above and beyond to helping other people. Somebody who's willing to put their own needs aside and help somebody else, because they know that's going to help them in the end. But people that don't believe in helping other people should never, ever look at fucking any of my stuff or any other book for that matter about anything occult, because if they only care about themselves and nobody else, then that's pretty fucking selfish, and they shouldn't be down this path. And like I said, I think there's a force out there stopping that from happening, but you never know. So that is what it is. But once again, this is going to be just a shorter little episode today, probably about an hour. I don't really know, but I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, have a great fucking day.
That came out of the Middle East, one of which is the account in Genesis. Mesopotamian story. And Mesopotamia is one of the earliest civilizations, and it emerged as a consequence of the amalgam of Middle Eastern tribes. So over a very long period of time. You could think the gods of all of these tribes were warring in an abstract space, in a conceptual space, and that would be the space of argumentation and conflict. And out of that, a meta-story emerged. And this is the meta-story, and it's one of a host of similar meta-stories that came out of the Middle East, one of which is the account in Genesis. Okay, so here's the story. So there are two primary deities to begin with, Apsu and Tiamat. Now, in order to understand that, well, here's how the Mesopotamians conceptualized the world. There was let's call it a disk. That's salt water. Well, why? Well, what happens when you go to the end of the continent? It's salt water everywhere, right? So wherever you go, you run into salt water. So that's the disk that surrounds everything. Now, why is it a disk? The world is a dome on a disk. Why? Well, say you're standing in the middle of a field. What does the world look like? A dome on a disk. So it's a phenomenological representation. So the bottom of the dome is the ground on which you stand. What happens if you dig? You hit water, fresh water. So the dome of the land is on a disk of fresh water. What happens if you go to the edge of the land? You run into salt water. The dome of the land is on a disk of fresh water, on a disk of salt water. Okay, those are the two gods. Tiamat is god of salt water, and Apsu is god of fresh water. And it's happenstance in some sense, because that's the masculine and the feminine, and they could be attributed all sorts of different geographical areas. So, for example, see if I can think of a good example. Doesn't matter. I'll just leave that for now. Okay, so the two primary gods are Apsu and Tiamat. Tiamat is female, and Apsu is male. And they're locked together in an inseparable embrace. Okay, so how do you understand that? Easy. Yin and yang. It's the same idea. Here's another representation. This is a cool one. I've got a couple of them here that are really cool. This is from China. So this is Fuxi and Nuwa. I think I've got that right. But I just love that representation. It's so insanely cool, this representation. So you see the primary mother and father of humanity emerging from this underlying snake-like entity with its tails tangled together. I think that's I really do believe this, although it's very complicated to explain why. I really believe that's a representation of DNA. So, and that representation, that entwined double helix, that is everywhere. You can see it in Australian Aboriginal art. And I'm using the Australians as an example because they were isolated in Australia for like 50,000 years. They're the most archaic people that were ever discovered. And they have clear representations of these double helix structures in their art. So, and those are the two giant serpents out of which the world is made, roughly speaking. It's the same thing, you see that in the staff of Asclepius, which is the healing symbol that physicians use, although usually that's only one snake, but sometimes it's two. So that's a Chinese representation. And then there's this. That's the Egyptian representation. We talked about the Egyptian story the other day, right? We talked about Isis and Osiris. So there they are, cobras. Their tails are twined together. See, they emerge out of that. That's the dragon of chaos that manifests itself as culture and nature. That's the representation. That's unbelievably cool. So, okay. So, anyways, back to the Mesopotamian story. So, Apsu and Tiamat are the primordial deities, nature and culture. They're entwined together, and they give rise to their first category of children, and those are I think you could think about them as the elder gods. Now, what do they represent? Well, the question is, what do the gods represent? And they represent sort of like primary modes of being. It's something like that. So think about Ares or Mars, the god of war. Well, that's a representation of single-minded aggression. And then you can think about Eros or Venus, which is a primary representation of sexuality. And you might say, well, why are those deities? Well, that's simple. They live forever, and they control you, and their personalities. So that's that for that. It's like, yes, obviously. You know that you're under the sway of anger. You're not in control of yourself. If you're under the sway of erotic possession, you make a fool out of yourself. You're a tool of the power that drives the continuation of the species forward. Hunger is the same thing. Any primordial motivational drive we've conceptualized in this class as a personality. But those are transcendent personalities, and they're eternal. They're forever. And so that's why the Greeks, for example, thought that human beings were just the playthings of the gods. And this idea is echoed in the Mesopotamian story. So then you can think about it sort of neurodevelopmentally as well, is that out of nothing, out of culture and nature, emerges, say, the 2-year-old. The 2-year-old is a battleground of primary motivational forces. And something like that is being hinted at in the Mesopotamian creation story. The first progeny of the fundamental union of chaos and order, Apsu and Tiamat, is the proliferation of these primary motivational forces. They're sort of like the Titans, or the what was it the Greek gods kept underneath the mountain? It's Zeus. What's the name of that? They're like they're earthquakes and fires and that sort of thing. They're primordial forces. Okay, anyways. So these children are produced. And what happens? They're very noisy. They run around doing all sorts of things. You could think about them as grown-up 2-year-olds, causing all sorts of trouble. The first thing they do is kill Apsu and make their home on his corpse. It's brilliant. Now, the story doesn't say much about Apsu other than that. The culture deity, the primary culture deity is not elaborated up that much in the Mesopotamian story. And I think that's probably because at the time of the Mesopotamian, civilization was new enough so that we really hadn't mapped the mythology of culture. The Egyptians did that much more. And I know I told you that story first, but that's just how it goes. So the elder gods make their home on the corpse of Apsu. Well, what does that mean? Well, that's sort of how it is. You inhabit the corpse of culture, right? It's the dead past. But it's not just the dead past. One of the things that's very cool about the Mesopotamian story is that the elder gods are foolish enough to kill it. It's the death of God, by the way. It's no different from what Nietzsche pronounced. This has been going on for a very, very long time, this collapse of belief systems. They kill it carelessly because they don't understand what it is that they need to survive. They kill it carelessly, and then they try to live on the corpse. I think that's what the postmodernists do, by the way, because they assume we have this tremendous system of value that's been built up across time, and it sustains us, and everyone is criticizing it and trying to destroy it. And it's, well, we live in its corpse, and that won't nourish us forever. It has to be replenished, and there's nothing in the postmodernist philosophy that can act to replenish. Anyways, They kill Apsu. What happens when you kill order? Chaos comes back. Tiamat. Now this is Tiamat. Here. Feminine, but also the dragon. So it's you think, out of this fundamental reptilian treasure bearer, culture and nature emerge. And they can pull back into that very rapidly. So here's an example. You've all seen Sleeping Beauty, I presume. How many of you have seen Sleeping Beauty, the Disney film? How many of you haven't? Okay, so there's a couple that haven't. There's a scene in Sleeping Beauty where the evil queen has imprisoned the prince who's going to wake Sleeping Beauty up. So he's the logos, or he's the heroic individual, or he's that element of her consciousness that wakes her up. You can read it either way. She's got him trapped in a dungeon, so she's the kind of ultimate Oedipal mother, you know. She's the mother that has her 40-year-old son in the basement who's like overweight and unhealthy and watching video games and being covered with Cheeto dust, and she always like feeds him sandwiches so he won't leave, you know. And she says, "Oh, it's a good thing you didn't go out in the world and make some poor woman miserable." So anyway, so that's the evil queen. He's got the hero trapped in the dungeon. So he goes out, he escapes, and then she goes after him to try to bring him back and turns into the dragon. That's what happens in Sleeping Beauty. So that's that reversion of the archetype into its even more primordial force. So anyway, so Tiamat is kind of an amalgam of feminine nature and also this more underlying primordial symbol. So anyway, she is not happy. She is not happy that her children killed her husband. And so she thinks, oh, well, enough of these creatures. We're gonna do them in. It's a flood myth. It's the same idea. So what happens in the story of Noah, this happens worldwide, is that human beings get all corrupt and make a lot of racket and break all sorts of rules, and God thinks, oh, well, you know, enough of you. We'll just bring in a flood and wipe you all out. That's chaos returning. You destabilize order too badly. There's a flood, and that brings with it all sorts of new things because it's water, but it just drowns you. It drowns you. Now, Noah is a good man, so he can ride out the flood. He's the hero that can go down into the chaos and then back up because he hasn't let go of his morality despite the fact that the entire society has disintegrated. So he saves everything. So it's like Moses crossing the Red Sea and then coming out the other side. Same sort of idea. Anyway, so Tiamat, she's not happy. And these gods are careless too and impulsive. They're making a lot of noise and their activity disturbs her. You know, and you can see echoes of that fear, that mythological fear in modern consciousness because we tell ourselves the same story, right? The story is, if we keep running around making enough racket, Mother Nature is going to take offense and wipe us out. And that's the story that's at the bottom of the sort of apocalyptic element of the global warming apocalypse. It's like, if we muck about badly enough, nature will take its revenge. Okay, fine, it's true. It's a story that's always been true. So, anyways, the gods are making a lot of noise. They're being impulsive, and then they make the fatal error of killing Apsu, and that's a big mistake. And so Tiamat thinks, all right, enough of this. She wakes up, and she thinks, I'm going to wipe them all out. Now, these gods, they're gods, eh? I mean, they're not trivial characters, but they're pretty worried because they're gods, but Tiamat is their mother. She gave birth to them. She's Mother Nature. And if she's angry about it, then the jig's up. And so what Tiamat does is she prepares this army of monsters. And they're described. There's, I think, 13 different kinds of monsters. And they're chimeric images. They're images of, you know, they're like dragons. They're half snake and half bird and half animal. And they're monstrous images. And they're sort of the Mesopotamians' attempt to imagistically represent those things that might come forward as an onslaught. And so it generates a whole 13 major monsters and then puts a whole army behind them. And she elects one of them, Kingu is his name, as head monster. So he's, for all intents and purposes, he's an early representation of Satan. He's like king of the bad guys. And it's important to know about him because something happens later in the story. So Tiamat's preparing her army of monsters, chimeras, to wipe out the gods. And so they're like shorting out about this, but while they're doing it, they're still making a lot of racket and living the high life in Apsu's courts and propagating. And while they're doing that, they send out one god after another to combat Tiamat. And they all come back failed. So whatever these elder gods are, whatever they represent, they're not whatever it is that can confront chaos successfully and prevail. They're powers, but they're not whatever that is, that ultimate power. And that's what the Mesopotamians are trying to figure out. Who or what is king of the gods? And king of the gods is the thing that confront chaos and regenerate order. So they keep producing new gods, and one day they produce Marduk. He's bored. And Marduk is a whole new category of god. And every one of the gods knows it. And he's got some very strange attributes. One of them is he can speak magic words. And so when Marduk speaks, the night sky transforms into the day sky and vice versa. So he's the verbal capacity. It's a massive discovery. It's a massive discovery by the Mesopotamians because it's the first time we know of that the idea that it's the capacity for communicative speech as the primary deity should be at the top of the dominance hierarchy. It's one of the most remarkable discoveries of the ages. And he also has eyes all the way around his head. So Marduk is the thing that can speak and see. And it's the thing that's... So all the gods think, wow, well, this is a whole new thing, man. How about you go out and combat Tiamat? Well, it doesn't sound like much of a picnic, you know. The logical thing for any sensible god to say is, how about no? But Marduk doesn't say that. He says, look, I'll make you guys a deal. You get yourself together in a hall, you know, and you have a vote, for all intents and purposes, and you vote me king of the gods. And allow me from here on in to determine destinies. That's exactly what the Mesopotamians say. He gets the tablet of destiny, and he's now in control of it. So the Mesopotamians are working out this idea that it's the thing that can see and that can talk that should be the thing that guides destiny, especially if destiny involves having to go into combat with chaos itself and restructure the world. And so Marduk says, those are the terms. I'll do it, but I'm king of the gods. And they all think, well, the fool's going to go out there and get killed anyway, so, you know, what do we have to lose? And so they agree, and so Marduk goes out to combat Tiamat, and he takes a net and a sword, and he, if I remember correctly, he fills her with a wind, which is, I believe, part of the manifestation of this voice idea. He fills her with a wind, he encapsulates her in a net. Now think about what that means. You know, psychologists even use this phrase, nomological net. And a nomological net is the network of concepts that you use to encapsulate something new in an ideational structure. And so the idea of putting something in a net is to put boundaries around it, right? And to constrain it. And so some of that's actually, well, you can capture a predator in a net and then cut it up. But there's no difference between that. There's a tight analogy between that and encapsulating something novel in a conceptual network, which then enables you to cut it up into something useful. Okay, so that's what happens. Marduk goes out, he confronts Tiamat, he overcomes the monsters, and he kills Kingu. And then he cuts Tiamat into pieces, and he makes the world. And then that's the world that human beings live on. And he makes the human beings to serve the gods. Okay, so that's the first part of the story. Now he also kills Kingu, and he makes human beings out of the blood of Kingu. Now that's a hell of a story, right? Because Kingu is king of the demons, and human beings are the creature that's made out of the blood of the king of the demons. And it's a very similar idea to the later sort of Egyptian and Judeo-Christian ideas that there's a satanic element to being that's also characteristic of human beings. And part of that is, well, what's the difference between human beings and every other element of being? And the answer to that is, human beings can deceive you, right? We're the only creatures that can do that. We're capable of deception, voluntary deception. We're capable of malevolence. And so that's echoed as well in the story in Genesis, because when Adam and Eve eat the apple, they wake up, the scales fall from their eyes, they recognize that they're naked, and they know the difference between good and evil, which means they can do evil. And it took me a long time to figure that out, what that meant. So imagine, because there's a causal sequence, hey? The snake offers you something that you ingest. It wakes you up. Scales fall from your eyes, so now you can see. The first thing you do is you realize that you're naked. Well, what does that mean? Well, human beings stand upright. The most vulnerable part of us is front and center. To be hurt, but also to be judged, right? To be naked that's terrifying. You want to not die. You want to cover yourself up. And so that's the recognition of nakedness. But then you might say, well, why does the knowledge of good and evil emerge from that? As soon as you know you're naked and vulnerable, you know how to hurt other people. You're not a predator anymore, because they'll just tear you apart and eat you. Like, they don't want you to suffer, although they don't care. They don't want you to suffer. They just want to eat you. But once I know what hurts me,